Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I'm Jenny Hall. Today I have a technique video. What project I'm working on today is a card. It's going to be kept very clean and simple, and I'm using the technique called watercolor smooching. I'm not sure if it's really smooch or smoosh, but it's all practically the same thing. My work surface is freezer paper. Freezer paper is a paper that has been around for gazillion of years, and it's shiny on one side, which means that it is non-porous, and it's matte on the other side, which means that it is porous. So the shiny side does not absorb the water. What I can do with the water, with the ink, and this freezer paper is that just like a piece of acetate or window sheet, I can apply ink to it, spray a little water, and it stays right where it is. It doesn't get absorbed by the work surface. The way that I'm accomplishing this technique is this is regular cardstock, and this is going to be the first of 3 different ways to do this technique. Regular cardstock absorbs water directly. There's not a lot of, once you get it on the paper, it doesn't forgive and let you take it back up. Regular cardstock is there. So if you are ready to try this technique, which I applaud you because it's a wonderful way to make cards and it's really a lot of fun, especially for kids, is make sure that you use colors that you know are going to be exactly what's going to show up on your cardstock. For instance, I chose mint macaron as my first base color, which is a light minty green color. That's great because it matches, all 3 of these inks that I'm using match the color of designer paper that I'm using on my card. The Watermelon Wonder and the Night of Navy stamp are not light at all. They're very, very dark. And I chose these just for the sake of demonstration of technique to show you that even when they're watered down and squirted with some water from the little spritzer, they are still going to be dark. Anything that is being absorbed by cardstock, it's going to soak it up and it's going to hold on to it. And it's not going to lighten up really. It'll lighten up a little bit when it dries, but not too much. So the fun part about this technique is that you can kind of manipulate and control where the color is going to go onto your cardstock. You can put as much or as little as you like. And it's just kind of a lot of fun to just play with ink. You know, it's kind of like liberating to feel a little bit like getting your fingers messy like a kid again. I really like this technique. There are a couple of other different ways to do it. One of the other ways that I'm going to demonstrate in my next video is going to be using watercolor paper. The reason that watercolor paper would react differently is because it's more forgiving with the water. Once it soaks up some of the smoosh, which is, you know, when I put the watercolor down on the freezer paper with the ink, it's going to let it absorb just to a certain degree, but whenever I add water to that cardstock, it's going to react and give some of that paint right back to me on a paper towel. So it'll give a much lighter effect. So that we're going to try that on the next video. But for now, I want you to see what we can do when you use cardstock. A lot of people don't have watercolor paper or they are not comfortable with working with it, and that's really okay. This is regular white cardstock. It is thick whisper white cardstock, so it is nice heavy cardstock. And if you want to try this technique, then I would suggest go light. Go really light with your ink colors. That way you are able to it's not overpower. To me, this is a nice complementary piece of artwork that is going on a card. However, with that being said, it looks pretty, but it's really dark. My taste in card making tends to run more on the lighter side than it does on the darker side. So just a little thing to point out is you can always add more color, but you can't always take it off. I am going to add a sentiment to this piece of smooshed paper, smooshed or smooch, I'm not really sure, but I'm adding copper. I think the copper right now for this time of the year is really pretty, and I know that the copper embossing is not going to be very light, but what I want it to have a reaction with on this card is when the light catches the copper, it's going to sparkle like crazy. So I wanted the ability to have the card, it is going to be very enriched with color, but it's also going to be very, very sparkly on that center panel. So right now I have used the Versamark clear sticky ink, and I used my rubber stamp, put it in the Versamark ink, and then put that down onto the panel, and then you directly put your embossing powder over that. And you can have it pour out back into the receptacle that it came in, the little cup. You can have it go into a coffee filter like I did, or a scratch piece of paper. Whatever your method is, embossing is beautiful. It's fun, and it's a great way for you to make your cards really you. It's another way, it's another piece of art that you can make and create that's all your own. Oh, do you see the sparkling? I just love how this copper embossing just shines and sparkles. I'm attaching everything on this card today with snail adhesive. I could use liquid glue, but snail adhesive is going to be fine because this is a simple card with a simple amount of layers. The thick Whisper white paper is a bit more thick now since it's got all of the paint soaked into it. So all I just needed to do was give it, because it is still cardstock, I just needed to give it some extra snail adhesive on the back. So I've gotten those two separate units put together, and I used dimensionals to kind of give a little bit of definition to the panel versus the card base. And I'm using Stampin' Up's Stampin' Dimensionals, which is a foam, and it has double sticky. It's sticky on the side that you peel it off, and it's sticky on the side after you stick it on your card, and it's a really nice way to feature. Thank you guys for joining me in another card making tutorial. I'll be back next week with another watercolor smooching video.